I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He comes all the way from Nanaimo. He is Raymond Geisler. He is the host of Unbought and Unbossed Radio. Raymond, the microphone is yours.
Hello and welcome. My name is Raymond Geisler, and I am honored for the chance to share some ideas with you today at this solutions-based rally hosted by Victoria We Are Change. I also want to acknowledge that I am a guest on the traditional territory of the First Nations peoples. And speaking of solutions, this We Are Change group is an excellent example of concerned citizens working in their local community to make a difference. Let's have a hand for the organizers of this event. For the last 6 years, I have been the host and producer of the political talk radio show Unbought and Unbossed on CHLY, an independent campus and community radio station out of Nanaimo, BC. I am pleased to have had many of the speakers you will hear today on my radio show in the past. The central question for today's consideration is, how do we hold our elected politicians accountable for the needs and desires of Canadian citizens? That is, how do we change our current political system to that of a real democracy, where we, the people, actually rule? I plan to address this topic today, and that, I believe, is the ultimate solution we are looking for today. Aside from the lack of our actual representation by our politicians, the three main problems I recognize in Canada today are, firstly, the selling off of our natural resources and environmental protections to the control and benefit of multinational corporations. Second, by Canada's military support and involvement in immoral and illegal war campaigns in this latest war of terror. And lastly, the fact that the Bank of Canada is not Canadian, and that in actuality it promises only permanent debt. And this is the sickening reality of Canada in the 21st century. How many of our politicians are really keeping their mouths shut on these issues for fear of ending their career advancement? This current Canada sickens me. It stinks of dishonesty and corruption, and it is time for the fearless patriots to put an end to this shameful madness. It is time not only for the people of Canada, but for the people of this entire planet to unite and to practice massive and peaceful civil disobedience. However, before we can honestly look at potential solutions to the issues listed above, we must first stop letting our minor differences and infighting make us forget that we were all on the same team and have very similar goals. Due to the controversy of today's event, let me repeat this. Except for the agent provocateurs hired to tarnish the message of concerned citizens, we are all on the same team and have very similar goals. We all want a clean, sustainable, and peaceful environment that will allow our children to thrive on this beautiful and amazing planet. So, what are some potential solutions to these problems? Let us look firstly at the unresponsive Canadian political system. How is it that our provincial and federal politicians could be as out of touch as they appear as to the reasons why we are here today? I am going to guess that many of us here today have experienced a personal awakening, one that pulls from the inside, a tugging at the heart that will not allow you to sit back and watch from the sidelines, because you are a witness to the devastating global landscape upon us. And today we refuse to be silent, and for that I want to thank you. I came to my political awakening due to the 9/11 false flag terror attacks. If you are not yet versed in the lies of the official account of 9/11, I suggest you become so. This might be the quickest way to understand that the world does not run the way our politicians and corporate media pretend. Sadly, this is a much darker reality than many activists are prepared to acknowledge, let alone live in. In fact, 9/11 was conducted to silence dissenting voices and countries into towing the line of global fascism, a totalitarian nightmare which is evident in the police state currently being ushered in. For the first few years of my radio show, I attempted to have political and media personalities on my show to discuss the 9/11 controversies. At first, I was surprised that none were willing to debate 9/11 with me. I was rather naive then. I should add that in the 6 years of the Unbought and Embossed radio show, not one person has taken me up on my challenge of defending the official 9/11 conspiracy theory on air. So, how do we put and keep the pressure on our elected representatives? A definition of democracy that I like is that our elected representatives should never be trusted to place the interests of the citizens first and foremost. Very seldom does this happen, and I believe that we must do everything in our power to hold their feet to the fire to ensure that the people rule. The following quote by Upton Sinclair accurately illustrates this disconnect between politicians and their constituents. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his job depends on not understanding it. I suggest forming a political watch group in every riding in Canada to record every action and utterance spoken by the local member of Parliament. We must put an incredible amount of pressure on them and let them know that we are paying very close attention to their actions and that we are circulating our findings to their constituents. I am not a fan of the political party system, but I do see the wisdom of activists joining political parties in hopes of helping to steer this runaway train from within. While I am not suggesting that this would be a sure way to vote in progressive and moral people into office, it is far better than the apathy we see on election nights. Moreover, perhaps a none of the above box should be added to the ballot. Wouldn't you just love to see the TV pundits squirm as they try to explain the sudden change in voter turnout? I am now going to talk about a proven solution, and that is becoming the media. I strove on my radio show to invite guests that were active in providing an alternative dialogue that challenged the agreed-upon version of recent history, which I call officialdom. Officialdom is the narrow sliver of acceptable talking points and views that our federal governments and corporate media outlets repeat endlessly, regardless of the evidence to prove otherwise. History is being rewritten before our very eyes. It states that all the terrible events happening on our planet and to humankind right now are a series of unfortunate coincidences, of bad luck, despite our best intentions. Bullshit. Like Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. The collective group of us gathered here today could reverse nearly all our problems if given the resources. It is not that difficult to know the right thing to do. It is an energy vibration that sings in the key of love. So let me share a list of things that we can do to better educate ourselves and our communities. I can personally attest to the influence of public radio. No prior experience is required, and you learn as you go. Same for most everything else in becoming the media. Borrow, steal, and create ideas that work for you. We are constantly adding to our knowledge and experience in attempts to create the world in which we want to live. We can write letters to the editor, hand out leaflets in your community, organize movie and speakers nights in your communities. Don't be afraid to speak your truths. The time is now. It will give others the courage to do the same. Get out from behind the computer and put the active back into activism. Promote free speech, free energy, and industrialized hemp. Learn to grow a garden. Look into communal living and transportation options. Learn to use big words like fascism, democracy, censorship. Don't fall for the dangerous antics of agent provocateurs on social media sites and in activist groups. Stop shopping at the monster box stores and keep your money local. Shop at your local farmer's market if you care about your dietary health. Switch to a credit union. In conclusion, I want to remind you that our every freedom is at stake in this battle for truth and accountability, and that the prize is nothing less than the health of our collective human soul. Thank you.